Welcome to the fourth session of this fourth module. So here I'll be concentrating more on this FRL unit. As I was just talking about this FRL unit, FRL stands for the filter, regulator and the lubrication system. Now mark, these are all three, though they are three different equipments, they are termed as a one simple single component. It is only because their motto or the objective of using this FRL is remains to be the same, and they does a maximum difference to the system of the pneumatic operations. So in this, as the name itself indicates, the filter is the one which is being used to filter. Regulator is the one which regulates the pressure of uh, the compressed air, and then the lubricator is the one which is being used to lubricate the moving parts. Now, without these three things, a pneumatic system will not be a complete one. So, out of this context, uh, if I want to talk, what is this? Why is this FRL? Now, is it necessary to use all these three things? It can be used individually or it can be in combined. But when it comes to the regularly in a pneumatic systems, all these FRL units, that is a filter, regulator and lubricators, will be used in common to any type of the pneumatic systems. Basically, as the filter, the name itself indicates, it is there is the filter is the one which cleans the contaminants out of the air in the line. Now, is it necessary to place this filter before the compressor? Need not. It is a must before the compressor as well as even after the compressor. Is it necessary? It is necessary. Okay, now first and foremost thing is the filter which is being we are just placing before the compressor. It is only because it is taking the air or it is been drawing the air from the atmosphere, and this in the atmosphere there will be a lot of very minute dust and dirt particles, or it may be sand particles. Many things will be there which has to be filtered before it enters into the compressor. Now this is the first point where it increases the performance of the compressor. Is it clear? That is why in most of the cases, if the filter is not working, we can hear the sound of the change in the sound of the engines. So the same thing, even in the compressors also, the filter has to be good enough, which has been placed before the air drawing from the atmosphere. Now this is, as the most filters, it acts as a strainer, allowing air to flow through the through it while trapping dirt particles or rust particles, or it may be a dust particles, and the different damaging elements which may be present in the air. And this a filter, even after the compressor or even after the receiver, from the receiver when it is going to the actuator also, we can place one filter so that it can further filter it. That is what we call it as a secondary treatment. Is it clear? So the filter also separates liquids into oil and water also. The filter is the one first stage of the FRL system which has been installed upstream of both the regulator and the lubricator. That means filter is the one the person who starts in the who comes in the beginning of the pneumatic flow systems. They are probably the aware how damaging the contaminants can be in the pneumatic system. The dirt and other particles have to go somewhere and they have to filter it, make sure that whatever the piece of equipment is been using the air should be clean and it should not get damaged because of this the foreign particles. Even my dear friends, even if you are traveling in a bike without wearing any glasses or the helmets, if a small dust or a small uh, dust particle, if it hits your eyes, you feel it is more paining. The same way, the dust or dirt particles which is entering into the compressor, the performance or the life of the compressor will also depends upon this filter ability. The contaminants gum up the tools and increases the friction. These contaminants increases the friction, eventually leading to loss of functionality or complete breakages. The functioning or the functionality of the compressor or it may be a device will be greatly affected by this contaminants. So these contaminants uh, should be removed in the filter itself. To more, the more you can we filter out such contaminants, we keep them out of the track of the movement of the air. So that what happens, the equipment life always keeps increasing. The less downtime we will have to deal it with the more damages. That is what. Okay. Now the regulators are the one which serves as the maintaining the pressure. It is something like maintaining the pressure of the air which is moving in the pneumatic systems at the right time. They can reduce the pressure coming into the system upstream while seeking to maintain the constant flow downstream. Ideally, the regulator should keep the perfect constant pressure, but it really difficult actually to maintain the constant pressure from the beginning till the end. It is very difficult in order to maintain that. Why it is necessary to maintain the same pressure? Say for example, if a robot is operating under pneumatic system and a pick and place operation is there. Now, if you want a smooth operation, the gradual increase or the gradual or the same speed or the same velocity has to be maintained. If it has to be maintained same speed, so the pressure with which it is moving should be the same. Obviously, so the regulator is the one which is maintaining the pressure of the system. Okay, the hissing noise, that is what even this hissing noise you can also hear it in the buses also. Okay, the hissing noise you hear it from the pneumatic system is always the sound relieving from the system. A non-relieving type will not do this type of actually. A regulator should be chosen based upon what kind of pressure or the flow requirements which we are using it and even the nature of the work that we are looking out for. Is that clear? See, for example, if there is a fast movement, if you want to increase the speed, you have to adjust the regulator so that the pressure is being increased more. Okay, now the pressure demand doesn't remains the same thing every time. It can be remained constant for one part of work, and the other nature of the work may demand the higher pressure. The other nature of the work may demand lesser pressure. Is that clear? One example I would like to tell you. Holding an egg, how much pressure you require? Is a very less. The same thing, holding a metal bar, you require more pressure. So now, my dear friends, holding an egg and moving from one place to the other place and keeping it and placing it out requires a different pressure. The same metal piece, I have to lift it and keep it somewhere over there, requires a different pressure. But while moving the egg, we are maintaining the same pressure. While moving the metal bar, we are maintaining the same pressure. At that moment, it is being maintained constant. Now, pressure movement, it is very important. That is why I always used to tell my students, BP, now if you take a blood pressure of our body, if it is too high, it is dangerous. If it is too low, it is also dangerous. How can we maintain it? The body blood pressure is been always maintained. That is the beauty of our regulating system. It is been given by God. It is a super regulator. It has been inbuilt to our body, wherein which the BP, the blood pressure, is been maintained common. Now, in the pneumatic system, how we can maintain this pressure? It is only by the use of a regulator. That is the beauty of this regulator. One is the filter and the other one is a regulator. Filter is the one who will not allow the foreign people to enter into our, that is the villains to enter into our home. The regulator is the one which is maintaining the pressure. Is it clear? It is something like a filter. Filter is nothing but like our nose. It will not allow the foreign particles to enter into our lungs. Whereas a regulator is nothing but our inside body which regulates the pressure of our blood. Is that clear? Now the third one is a lubricator. As the name itself indicates, a lubricator is extensively used. Why is this lubrication is required? Now, my dear friends, whether it is a hydraulic system or it may be a pneumatic system or it may be an electric system, wherever there is a moving part, from a fan to the windmills, wherever the moving parts are there, whether it may be reciprocating or it may be a rotary motion, we need to have a lubrication. Now, it is a common sense, my dear friends. If you don't have a lubrication system, what happens? I don't need to explain that consequence. If you don't have a lubrication system, obviously the friction will be more. Whenever there is a friction is more, the wear is more. Whenever there is a wear is more, the wear and tear of the material will be there. That is, the tear and loss of material will be there. Whenever there is a loss of material, you will hear a sound. You will hear the failure of the material. There will be a complete failure of the system itself. So the lubrication is very important. One more point is, even in the friction, wear is also more and heat generated will also be more. Thermal stresses will be generated. So all these, a friction is a hero and a friction is a villain also. That is what we always say. In order to have this, an optimum, a smooth movement of these moving parts, we always go for a lubrication system. A lubricator is one material which increases the lubrication. Okay, most of the tools or machineries of the pneumatic systems require lubrication for the efficient or effective operation and to minimize the wear and tear from the internal friction. When it is sometimes it is possible that lubricate in few cases they also use the solid lubrication. In few cases they use a liquid lubrications. Is that clear? And in one or two cases they also use some air uh, as itself is lubrication purpose, or maybe not for the lubrication purpose, maybe for the smooth flowing. That is an extreme conditions. While it is sometimes possible to lubricate these tools using a grease gun or the other method, if you use such kind of things, it will be messy, right? So more effective to lubricate them through the airflow. A lubricator in any FRL system adds a precise level of lubricant to avoid oversaturating of our tools. It just takes away the heat as well as it also reduces the friction. The oil may be added uh, ahead of this grease. It is only because grease leads to some messy, and grease in most of the cases they use it for higher load carrying applications, right? So there are two options actually: oil and fog and micro, that is oil and as well as the grease, the semi-liquid will be used. Okay. Now these FRL systems are often used. It's as an one unit, or they can also be used as a different unit. As I was just talking about filter, is it necessary to use only one? May not be necessary. You can use two. The two filters are also there. Okay. Now filters can remove this. Regulators just adjust this air pressures. Okay. What are these functions of this FRL units? Now, as a collectively, no, whatever I was just talking about, it is only a collective, individual functions. Actually, I just shall go in deeper in the later stages FRL units. Now, in the collective FRL unit, what the functions, the features of the FRL unit includes an optimum machinery functionality. When this filter regulator lubricator works effectively, they increase the functionality of the, it may be a tool or it may be machinery. Why I am using a tool? These pneumatic systems are not restricted to use only in the machineries, but they are also used in some tools also. Okay, so that is why we use as a word. So optimum machinery functionality or the tools functionality, we use the FRL unit. It also is the access. Accessing will be very easy. The prolonged system life, that is what he is not talking about any component. For example, I was just talking, if you use a good filter, the life of a compressor will be good. Correct. So the life of the compressor, if it has been increasing, if you are using a FRL system, so what are happening is we are increasing the complete life of the pneumatic systems. Prolonged, that means the life of the pneumatic system will be increased. Then reduced installation costs. Obviously, if you use a good FRL system, there will be a reduced installation costs. Okay. Then shut off valves for isolated systems. It also acts as shut off valves for isolated systems. It can be mounted by wall brackets. That is one of the major functions of this FRL units. Now coming to the individual one, now I'm just talking the filter. Filtering compressed air is widely regarded as an initial phase of air preparation. Now I was just talking a filter before the compressor, a filter after the compressor. Filter not only filters the contaminants, but it also filters a small amount of the moisture content. One example what I can give you is, you take a handkerchief, you just take a handkerchief, and if you puff the air like this, now even this portion will become a small wet, because this is something like a porous medium. This is something like a porous medium. If you puff it like this, so what is happening is you are not only filtering the contaminants, but also filtering a small amount of the moisture content which is being present in the air. So that is the use of these filters. Filters, that is the use, the purpose of using before the compressor is to filter the foreign contaminants, or the dirt or dust particles or any scrap or sand particles should not enter into the. So that we are just increasing the life of a compressor. Now after the compressor, what is happening is, now because even in the compressor also we will be having some moving parts, my dear friends. So what happened, there are a chances where an inbuilt particles may also, contaminants may also get generated in the compressor. So that will also might be coming out with some moisture content because of the drop in the dew point. Okay, the one which is been coming out is been subjected to once again the filtering. This filter will not only reduce filter the solid particles, but also reduces the small amount of moisture content. This allows the machinery and the pneumatic components to work at their optimum. They must be fed with clean filtered air that is free of dust and water and other particles. That is what it means, my dear friends. That is what even actually even the smoke, if it is been coming, I was just talking about, if you keep it for the silencer just for 5 to 10 seconds, it not only reduces, even you can see the traces of some wet conditions, is it not? So the various filtration levels are available between 5 and 40 microns. That means it is not 5 to 40 microns. Generally a dust particle will have around approximately 60 micron size will be there. Even if your chalk powder will also have 70 to 80 micron powder size, approximately 70 to 80 micron size will be there. So this has to be filtered. So the different types or different stages of filtering this membranes will be there. Now that is why the filters which are used in two-wheelers will be different, the filters which are used in cars will be different, and the filters which are being used in heavy vehicles like buses and lorries will be different. What is the difference? The filtration level will be different, and the capacity of these filters will be different. Is it clear? That is the reason why we go for different combinations of the filters. Based on the requirement, we use different levels of filtration filters. Okay, now in the pressure regulator, Air pressure regulators benefits the FRL box set in many ways. Firstly and most importantly, it provides an element of safety. Okay. Now, it is only because the pressure regulators, what happens once any equipment which has been designed, whether it may be an electric or hydraulic or pneumatic system, any system or any equipment will have its own maximum operating conditions, will always have its own maximum and minimum operating conditions will be there. Now minimum it is fine, maximum operating conditions, even if you take a boiler, it will have a maximum pressure limit of so and so. No, even in the pneumatic system also, how much we can compress the air? No, if it is limited to the 10 newtons, it has to be or 10 bars. If it is being limited to 10 bars, it should not exceed the 10 bars. Now what happens? No, that is why. Now even one small example I would like to tell you. You take a pressure cooker. A pressure cooker, you just remove that vessel and close it. It's something like a valve. You just close it and make sure that the steam doesn't comes out. You keep heating it. What happens? What happens to that? It will burst. It will fail. That means there is a failure of the system. It is a failure of the system. It is only because we are not letting the excess of pressure to go out. Now, if the receiver or a pneumatic system, it has been designed to operate at under 10 bars, we have to restrict that. A pressure regulator not only maintains the constant pressure, it also takes care of the maximum pressure also. It also takes care of the maximum pressure wherein which, suppose if it reaches, that is something like a pressure relief valve, wherein which once if it reaches the maximum pressure, it just releases the excess of the pressure which is being generated by the compressor, or it may be an excess of pressure which is being stored in the receiver. Once if it been reaches, it will dries out, it is being given out to the atmosphere. That is why when I was just showing the different components of the pneumatic systems in the morning, after the receiver there was a drain, or there will be a safety pressure relief valve was there also there, which has been maintained by this pressure regulator. A pressure regulator not only maintains the constant pressure for the operations, for the smooth operations, but also operates as a safety valve, and it maintains for the safety. Now this is the one majorly important one. So subsequently to this, it also helps to reduce the costs. Correct? The role of regulator is to control the air pressure to air tools, air gauging equipments and cylinders. Is that clear? That is what regulator has been used. One example what I would like to give you is, you might have seen oxygen cylinders, you might have seen the nitrogen cylinders. In the cylinders, above the cylinder wall, there will be one regulator will be there. A regulator one which allows the fluid to flow, and it also allows the check the flow. It also restrict the flow. It also allows the flow. Is that clear? No, a pressure regulator is the one which maintains the safety of the system. This plays a very vital role in any of the pneumatic systems. Now, my dear friends, forget about all those things. A normal, even you have an LPG cylinder at your home. Between the stove and the cylinder, there is one regulator knob. You just imagine if the regulator knob is not being placed, what would have happened? Is that clear? Now, it is the one which maintains that. If the regulator is not fine, there will be a leakage problems will also occur. So, a regulator is the one which increases the life, it gives the smooth flow of the movement of the fluid to flow through that. It is also is meant for the safety. Regulator mainly it is for the safety. Is that clear? Okay. Now, the one LPG gas which we are using it in our domestic system, usually there will be on and off button will be there. If you see in oxygen cylinder or a oxygen cylinders, there will be a regulator which we can maintain the movement or the pressure with which the air is flowing. It can turn it to the maximum or it can be closed. Oxygen cylinders, maybe you might have observed it, you can maintain the pressure by wearing this regulator. That is the beauty of this pressure regulators. Now in this pneumatic lubricator, that is the third point. In this like pressure regulators, lubricator function of FRL unit ensures that the air is dosed with a small amount of lubricating oil to help the pneumatic components work effectively. That is why lubricators ensure that the correct amount of oil is being used to reduce the friction between moving components. This feature is very important to ensure long machinery lifespan. Now my dear friends, I was just talking about lubricators. Even in the previous session, I was just talking about an air dryer. If the air dryer, the moisture content, if it mixes with this oil, this moisture content, if it mixes with the oil, it forms like a jelly which restricts the movement of the moving part. That is, two mating parts or any moving parts will be restricted, and it also restricts the movement of the air, and it also damages the material, the metal parts of the pneumatic systems. Now my dear friends, now we can see we cannot lubrication is important. It doesn't mean that we have to put more lubrication. Say for example, if you put 2 or 3 droplets to your hands, it is sufficient enough to rub your hands. If you put 1 cup of oil, it is not. What happens? It will slips away. It is not giving an optimum lubricating effect. So what happens? What is an optimum amount of the lubricant has to be supplied to this lubricating unit is required, is been maintained by this lubricators. Lubrication is required in order to reduce the friction, in order to take away the heat which has been generated during the two contact surfaces, and it is to reduce the wear, it is to reduce the loss of material or the tear of material, and it is also required to increase the life of the systems or the equipments. Lubrication is required, and meanwhile this lubrication should be effective, and it should not turn into a over lubrication systems, and it should not mix, it should not be more enough, so that there should not be any formation of the gel like structure which is mixing with the moist air, and which troubles the movement of the air in the pneumatic systems. So this also increases the life of the pneumatic systems. Whether you take a filter or a regulator or a pneumatic system, lubrication system, these three are very much essential in order to increase the lifespan or the working condition of the pneumatic systems. Now I just want to give you one image where the movement of this system will be there. Now basically we treat the air in two stages. One is the secondary air treatment, and the second one, and then the secondary air treatment will be there. Now if you check this, it's a line diagram where we are taking the air from the atmosphere. From the atmosphere, the air is being drawn into the compressor. This is the symbolic representation of this compressor, which is just taking in this towards right directions through the inlet filter. Then there will be a cooler, then there will be a mainline filter will also be there, then there will be a dryer. This is an air dryer. Then there will be a receiver tank, and then air service unit, that is a secondary air treatment. Then the load, that means it can be an actuator, it can be an actuator, it can be a spray gun, or it can be a machine tool, or it can be some equipment, anything or an actuator. That is what we taken as a load, and then it will go to the vent, or it will go to back to the this one atmosphere one. Now here air which is been coming here, it will fill these foreign particles, then the compressor will compresses it to a very high pressure and temperature, and this Once it is been compressed to a very high pressure and temperature, the dew point effect will also be there and the moisture content will be there 100%, and then the cooler will cools this high pressure and temperature air to a only high pressure temperature, very high pressure air, and the temperature will be removed. During this second filter, what it does is, whatever the internal inbuilt generated particles or a solid particles, if they are coming out of the compressor, it will be filtered. In addition to that, we have also filtering is a portion of a minor portion of the moisture content will also be getting filtered here. Then it will go to the air dryer where it will be completely dried. Now, are you getting it, my dear friends? A air dryer will completely makes it dry and free from moisture content, and then it will enter making an entry into the receiver tank. Now this cooler, filter and dryer is called as a primary treatment. Now what is happening? It is cooling, it is filtering, that means it is cool, it is clean and it is dry. Cool, clean and dry, these three, that is CCD, cool, clean and dry air, will enter into the receiver tank. Now after this receiver tank, the one which is getting into this load or an actuator will be always followed by this regulators, where this regulator will, based on the requirement, based on the load, based on the demand, the regulator will operate the pressure of the air which is entering into this load or an actuator. Now before this, what is happening is, it is a secondary air treatment will be there. That is, it can be maybe a further cooling or it may be a further filtering will also be there. So that then it will go to the regulator or the to the actuator where it will be done. After this, it will be sent to the atmosphere. So this is the a clear figure of this FRL unit. FRL majorly is required for the proper functioning of the pneumatic system, for increasing the life of the pneumatic system, and then it is for the safety of the pneumatic operator. That's it. So the FRL plays a vital role in deciding all these three functions. Okay, I have few MCQs questions. FRL stands for filter, regulator and lubricator, flow, report and lubricator. No, none of the above. It is only by default it is filter, regulator and lubricator. That is an answer is A. We need a lubricator separately in pneumatic system. Is it true? Yes, it is true. It is false in same thing. Do we need any lubricator separately in hydraulic system? No, we don't need any lubricator separately in the hydraulic system, because the working fluid itself will act as a lubricator. Is it clear? No, I told you in the beginning itself, please the point to be noted here, since we are not using any liquid as a working medium. Now forget about the oil, even we are not using even any liquid over here in this. So obviously we need a lubricator. We are not using any liquid, it doesn't mean that we don't have any moving parts. We have a moving parts. We have a moving parts in a compressor and even in the actuator. Everywhere we have a moving parts. So whenever there is a moving parts, we need a lubricator. So since we are not using any oil over here, we need a separate lubricator oil. That is, the second statement is true. So the option is A. Regulator regulates. What does it regulate? Does it regulate the quantity of the air? Does it regulate the velocity? Does it regulate the pressure? Yes, it regulates the pressure. Now the same thing I can also put it into the other words. Regulator is used for the safety purpose, for the maintaining the pressure purpose, and in order to check the movement of the flow. Yes, the functions are all same. Okay, but it is not directly controlling the quantity or the regulator. Okay, it just regulates the pressure of the system. Next, the filter is used at the beginning and at the end of the pneumatic system. At the end of the pneumatic system, I'm just don't get confused actually. filter is being used. Now here you can see it here, filter is being used before the compressor and after the cooler. Are we using it after this? Because we are not worried. See this, we the human people, we don't take much care about others. We always take care about ourselves first. So what we do it is, we are, since we are operating in a pneumatic system, we always keep the filters at the beginning of the compressor and at the after the cooler. Whatever this question, the filter is kept at the end of the pneumatic system. That means at the end of the pneumatic system, that means at this vent portion, we are not keeping any filter. Actually, the air which is been releasing, going away of the actuator is not been filtered. It is being just left to the atmosphere as it is and without any filtration. Is that clear? Maybe the reason is one thing is because we have been filtering it is twice, and in the actuator, the one which has been used as an extension, and the same will be used as a retraction on the other side, right? So it is just will not be so harmful to the atmosphere. As we have already told, it is an environmental friendly, so we are not using any filter at the end of the pneumatic system. If the same question is been like this, a filter is been used at the beginning of the compressor and at the beginning of the air dryer or after the cooler, it would have been yes. So this is one. Oh, so okay. Now, in this session, we have just discussed about the different FRL units and all those things. And then in next session, we will be talking about a very important one, that is actuator. We will be entering into the second chapter of the module 4. I will continue in the session 5.